Tonight, a major financial commitment announced for Uni Hub Spencer Golf, securing new facilities and more students. And 3, 2, 1 liftoff. The Eyre Peninsula takes another small step towards launching a rocket into outer space.
From our 7 Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with Madeline Kerr begins now.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. Southern Launch has welcomed the German aerospace company DLR as they visit the Whalers Way Orbital Launch Complex. The South Australian Space Agency now hopeful they'll launch a rocket from the Eyre Peninsula into space sometime this year.
Space launch in South Australia is preparing for takeoff. This week saw the Whalers Way testing site welcome some international guests.
So we are working with DLR, the German Aerospace Agency, on their reusable flight experiment, REFX. This is DLR's flagship rocket launch experiment.
Southern Launch has been busy over the past few months by expanding their team and operations. New recruit Robert Baker was appointed the role of General Manager of Launch and Testing.
This role is all about ensuring that rocket launches at our ranges are done in a very safe manner. And we were fortunate enough to attract a fellow by the name of Robert Baker.
Southern Launch receiving the backing from the state government to extend their use of the Whalers Way cement slab for another year.
Asked the South Australian government for an extension to the eco-test campaign. So this was our ability to use the concrete pad down at Whalers Way.
Despite not having an official launch date, Southern Launch are waiting on approvals from the Australian Space Agency and are hopeful to get a rocket into space by the middle of the year.
We can't wait to get back on the range and get a rocket off the ground and hopefully into space. It's very exciting.
Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Police are after the public's help following an overnight fire at Port Pirie West. Just before midnight, emergency services were called to Good Road, where they found an abandoned house on fire. Police say the property was completely destroyed, with the damage bill estimated at around $100,000. Investigators are still determining how the fire started. Anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stoppers. The member for Grey has today doubled down on his commitment to support local students' access to tertiary education, announcing additional funding for Uni Hub Spencer Golf to build new facilities and increase student numbers.
Opening the books and career opportunities for regional students. The federal government will provide Uni Hub Spencer Golf with a further 4 years of funding. Rowan Ramsey saying it will ensure students in Port Pirie and Port Augusta continue to have the opportunity to study their preferred vocation.
We're just elated because this isn't just an election commitment, this is a program commitment made by Rowan Ramsey and the Liberal government.
Providing that education at local level. It's been one of my passions since I got into Parliament and was trying to address this inequity of education, particularly at higher levels, between the city and the country.
The member for Grey also announcing that the Uni Hub program will expand to additional locations.
We are putting up funding to open up a Uni Hub in Port Lincoln and in Roxby Downs. So, and they were both going to be run by Uni Hub Spencer Golf.
Uni Hub staff expecting the new facilities to create even more opportunities for locals.
We provide premises, high-speed internet, a supported cohort with student engagement officers and a very capable CEO that we have.
With hundreds of students enrolled, Mr Ramsey says the hubs help create more skilled workers, something our region desperately needs.
That's sort of 200 additional nurses and engineers and teachers and allied health professionals that are already part of our communities and who want to stay in our communities.
The thing to do is actually focus on the people who do have their roots here and their commitments here and get their education to the level that we need for these sort of burgeoning industries.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Golf News.
The Department of Primary Industries and Regions has renewed calls for Spencer Golf farmers to track for mosquitoes on their land in a bid to prevent the spread of Japanese encephalitis. 2 new cases have been detected in the state, as Mark Zeta explains.
There are currently 9 cases of Japanese encephalitis in livestock, with 2 more cases detected in South Australian piggeries in the past month. According to PIRSA, the latest cases of JEV were found in the Mid-Murray and Loxton Waikiri local government areas and are linked to an infection cluster from February. In March, the disease was detected in pigs in the Clare Valley, with PIRSA still warning landowners across the Spencer Gulf to be aware of the disease. They're asking farmers to check for mosquito breeding grounds on their land, such as stagnant water puddles. PIRSA's Chief Veterinary Officer telling 7 Spencer Gulf News in March there are ways people can protect themselves from getting JEV.
Protecting yourselves, wearing repellents, wearing long clothing, covering up, and staying indoors at the peak mosquito biting times of the day are really important as well.
Farmers asked to monitor any cases of unexplained pig deaths or horse illnesses and report them to the Emergency Animal Disease Watch hotline. According to SA Health, the disease can also spread to humans through mosquito bites. While the majority of people infected with JEV will develop little to no symptoms, health authorities also say a very small fraction might develop inflammation of the brain. 8 people in South Australia have been infected with the virus since the beginning of the year. PIRSA also emphasising there are no food safety issues with pork meat or pork products due to JEV. More information about Japanese encephalitis can be found on PIRSA and SA Health's websites.
Still to come tonight, the latest push to get more Broken Hill children vaccinated against the flu ahead of the cooler winter months. And following through on an election promise, Port Augusta's Arid Lands Botanic Gardens receives a sizable chunk of change. Welcome back to 7 Spencer Gulf News. GFG Alliance's UK operations are once again under the spotlight, this time by the Financial Reporting Council. The British accounting regulator has commenced investigations in relation to the audits by King & King on 4 of GFG's plants. Last week, the UK's Serious Fraud Office requested documents from the company as part of a separate investigation. In a statement, the company says its Australian operations, including the Whyalla Steelworks, are not affected. After a drop in influenza vaccinations in 2021, the Australian Digital Health Agency is urging parents and guardians to get their children booked in for the jab. They're also encouraging people to visit My Health Record, so they're up to date on their family's immunisation history.
Flu season is upon us, and as the weather cools down, a reminder to parents, it's time to look into getting your kids vaccinated. Last year saw a drop in immunisations in both year 5 to 11 and the 12 to 15 age groups.
We were so focused on making sure that we were protected against COVID-19 and that we were getting our vaccinations when they were needed for different age groups that we've overlooked the fact that there is various other diseases we still also need to take very seriously.
In 2021, there was a significant reduction in influenza cases, mainly due to the stay-at-home orders and social distancing. But now that people are out and about, influenza cases will no doubt begin to pick up. The agency is also wanting people to start using the My Health Record online so they can be up to date.
Part of the My Health Record is obviously it has a dedicated immunisation dashboard area that gives you all the details around your COVID-19 status and vaccination certificate, but also has all the details around your other vaccines that you might be due for.
After the events of the past 2 years, the world is moving in a digital way. And for those that are not tech savvy, let it be known My Health Record is easy to use, and all your information is kept private.
We're in a digital world now, and we need to make sure that we do look after that. The Australian Digital Health Agency, the My Health Record, puts people's privacy around their medical records at the highest priority.
Contact your local GP for more information on getting your child vaccinated this flu season. Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Money promised in the lead up to the state election is on the way to Port Augusta. The Arid Lands Botanic Gardens will be funded by the state government, reducing the financial costs for the City Council and ratepayers' wallets.
The Port Augusta City Council has received notification in writing that $750,000 is on its way to the Australian Arid Lands Botanic Gardens. But it doesn't stop there. The state government will provide additional financial instalments over the next 3 years, until a total of $3 million has been pumped into the tourist hotspot.
confirmation in writing from the member from Giles. I thank you very much. I thank the Labor government for their support and their understanding.
Funding the gardens was once just an election pledge from Eddie Hughes. Now it's come to fruition. The newly installed Labor government now following up on their promise to support the gardens.
It's been a great team effort. It's been hard work. It took a lot of convincing, but at the end of the day, how could you refuse not to fund something as fantastic as this?
The Mayor says for the past 3 years he has argued that the council shouldn't have to pay for the gardens, with how much it benefits SA's tourism sector. With the state now covering the cost, the council expects to use some of the money they save to reduce council rates for the community.
Through our budget process that we're deliberating that we should be able to offer our community a very exciting rate, not rise.
The council extremely excited by this announcement, saying it means that the unique gardens can continue to thrive without adding unnecessary costs to the council's operating deficit.
Stay with us after the break. The unusual way seaweed is helping combat methane emissions in the Spencer Gulf. And after receiving a major cash injection from the state government, we'll tell you how funds will help those in the regions living with motor neuron disease. Hello again, you're watching 7 Spencer Gulf News. The federal government has announced millions of dollars in funding for a project that aims to help reduce methane production using seaweed. It's expected the project will be set up right here in the Eyre Peninsula.
Combating flatulence and belching in livestock one seaweed at a time. The federal government setting aside $3.8 million for a project to produce seaweed for methane reduction.
Well, this is a great announcement. $3.8 million to support CH4 to develop seaweed farms on Eyre Peninsula.
CH4 Global will develop stock feed found from the seaweed found in Cowes, south of Whyalla. A red seaweed called Asparagopsis is native to the region. The member for Grey says the seaweed will be used as a stock feed supplement, which in turn is expected to drastically slash emissions from livestock.
It's the seaweed that the world is talking about because it has the ability to reduce methane emissions, particularly in cattle, but in other animals as well, and also has some dietary value as well.
The company says the seaweed contains properties that reduce ruminant methane emissions by up to 90% in dairy cows, cattle and sheep. Emphasising recognition from the state and federal governments will help in creating new economic opportunities. The grant money to be used in developing hatcheries at Arno Bay and in Port Lincoln.
The grant opportunity will actually provide us with the next steps to being able to really expand our commercial operations.
The project is subject to approval by PIRSA. Mark Zita, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The state government is coming good on one of its election promises by awarding millions of dollars to the Motor Neuron Disease South Australia. The funding is part of a 4-year pledge and will go towards supporting those living with MND across the state.
A long-term commitment in supporting people living with motor neuron disease. The state government committing $2.4 million to MND South Australia.
Based on an advocacy campaign that we undertook in the lead up to the election. And that pledge was for funding of $600,000 a year for the next 4 years.
Up to 65% of MDSA's clients are over the age of 65 and therefore do not qualify for any support through the National Insurance Disability Scheme. The funding going towards specialist care and new equipment loans.
It's paying for staff to support that community over 65. So it gives us certainty around staff planning and resourcing, and we're not reliant upon fundraising dollars to make sure that we can cover those wages.
The organisation looking to reach out and support those diagnosed with MND living in the regions.
So MND South Australia does cover the entire state. So we do support people in Port Lincoln, Mount Gambier, Port Pirie, York Peninsula. So we do travel across the entire state.
For those who are seeking support, you can call MDSA on 08823 48448. Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us after the break. Far West hospitality businesses tell of their struggles with staff shortages. And we'll have the weekend weather details with Ruby Cairns. Welcome back to 7 Spencer Golf News. Hospitality venues in the far west of New South Wales are starting to feel the pinch due to staff shortages. A number of local spots have either been forced to alter their opening hours or close completely in an attempt to save the remaining staff from burning out.
It seems that hospitality venues are still being hit hard. Places in Broken Hill and surrounds are struggling with staff shortages.
So you've got shortages due to isolation from COVID, and then you've got the normal sick leave on top of that as well, because that hasn't disappeared either.
The Musicians Club, along with the Silverton Hotel, are just a couple of businesses that have had to change operating hours, while others like the Theatre Royale and the Demo Club have either closed for a couple of days or are going to close. And while they are actively recruiting, they're still lacking the numbers they need to run a business.
So it is normally a solution to hire more people, but when there's unemployment so low, it becomes an issue trying to hire people to work in the businesses.
Those in hospitality have also had to keep an eye on the staff that are still working through, to make sure the morale hasn't dropped and that they're getting enough time off to rest.
It's really managing the team and making sure they're looked after, and a lot of the venues are closing around town just to give their staff that are still working a couple of days off just to recharge the batteries.
Though the world is getting back to some form of normalcy, people still need to be patient with hospitality staff.
Yeah, the message from all hospitality operators and staff across the city is just work with us. We like welcoming you into our venue, but we are under the pump and short-staffed.
Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Time now to take a look at what we can expect from this weekend's footy comps across the Spencer Gulf and over the border in Broken Hill, where a familiar face will be donning the black and white.
This is a very special weekend in Broken Hill football because the man known as the Fev, the Fevinator, the Fevolution, Brendan Favola is lining up for the Central Footy Club here in the Silver City. Central over the last few years have struggled. They take on the South Juggernaut at Memorial Oval. Can they beat them? Well, Fev's going to line up here in the goal square. If he can kick 6 or 7 goals, Central can cause an upset. South, on the other hand, are chock-a-block full of champions. It's going to be line ball. Can Fev get them over the line, the Magpies? Nah. I'm going to stick with South to beat Central, even with Fev here in the goal square.
Round 3 of Isla football gets underway Friday night, and it's the match of the round, Rapina versus Runa Bay. Both teams going along very nicely, particularly Rapina. It'll be a close game, but I think we'll go with the Roos to get over the line in a very close one. Saturday's games, though, should be a little bit more one-sided. West Wyler versus South Wyler at Bennett Oval on Saturday. West did lose last week, but they're still kicking some goals. Poor old South can't quite manage to get a winning score together, and the Dragons should win this one. And on Saturday at Memorial Oval, North Wyler versus Central Wyler. Central's the reigning premiers, very impressive last week, and the Roosters should get themselves another win.
Welcome to Port Lincoln Footy Tips in round 3. We kick things off at Ravendale Oval, where Tasmans are hosting Marble Range. Marble Range haven't dropped a game this year, and I can't see them doing it this week. I'm tipping Marble Range to win this one by 4 goals. In the next game, we got Waybacks hosting Boston's at Centenary Oval. Both teams are looking for their first win, and I think it's going to go for Waybacks. Boston's looking good, it'll be a close one, but I'm tipping Waybacks by 2 goals. In the last game, we got the Peckers hosting Lincoln South at Mallee Park. It's hard to tip against Peckers at home, so I'm going to Mallee Park to win this one, and win this one by 5 goals.
Big weekend of sport indeed. Time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather with Ruby Cairns. Ruby, how's Mother's Day looking?
It's not looking too bad at this stage, Maddie. A bit of frost in the morning in Port Pirie, but the rest of our major centres will be rain-free to celebrate Mother's Day. More on that a little later. From 3 p.m. today, it was 16 degrees in Port Augusta. Whyalla was sitting at 15 degrees with showers clearing. It was 15 in Cleve as well. Let's see how today looked about the Spencer Gulf. Showers starting to clear around Whyalla, 17 degrees the top. A few showers and 17 in Port Lincoln as well. Partly cloudy and 15 degrees in Broken Hill. Port Pirie reached 18. Taking a look at the satellite image now, speckled cloud across the south. A cold air mass with a trough is generating some showers. Mostly clear skies lie to the north. Moving on to tomorrow's weather now. Outlook, we'll start with the Gulf waters. South to southwesterly winds 10 to 15 knots, decreasing to below 10 knots in the late evening. Seas around a metre and south to southwesterly swells 1 to 2 metres, decreasing to 1 to 1.5 metres in the morning. Looking at tomorrow's temperatures now, Port Lincoln a possible shower, 18 degrees partly cloudy and 17 degrees in Cleve, Woodna between 6 and 18. Mostly sunny in Whyalla, 18 degrees, mostly sunny as well in Port Augusta on Saturday, 19 degrees, possible showers and 18 in Kadina. Port Pirie, partly cloudy and 19 down to 3 degrees tonight. Just about freezing in Clare, 0 with a low temp, warming up to 15 degrees tomorrow. Mostly sunny Saturday on the cards for Broken Hill, 16 degrees. Looking ahead to Sunday's forecast now, similar conditions and temps across the region. And as I mentioned a little earlier, there'll be some morning frost in Port Pirie on Sunday. The Bureau is predicting partly cloudy conditions with a top of 21. Partly cloudy in the capital as well. Adelaide is set to reach 18 degrees for Mother's Day. Looking ahead to Monday, partly cloudy and 21 degrees in Port Pirie, 19 degrees in Whyalla, 20 the top in Port Lincoln. And having a quick look at Tuesday's forecast now, partly cloudy and 18 degrees in Broken Hill, mostly sunny and 22 degrees forecast for Port Pirie, a sunny 20 degrees on the way for Adelaide. And that's all the weather from me tonight. Maddie, it looks like the rain will stay away for Mother's Day. Have a great weekend. Back to you.
Thanks, Ruby. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on Sunday's weather. And that's the local news this Friday. I'm Madeline Kerr. Thanks for joining us. I'll have updates later on, but until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.